Thank you for staying with us. This first leg of the conversation is actually about the veterans, the military, and of course the fallen heroes. 15th of January every year is a day set aside to celebrate, the fallen heroes in Nigeria, especially stemming from what happened after the Civil War. And it's called the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. And the one for 2026 was held yesterday. So it's only okay if we talk about the sacrifices, the supreme prize that these persons of note have made on behalf of the Nigerian people and the Nigerian state. And all of us here at the Western Spring Television, the Morning Spring team do join millions of Nigeria to celebrate those that are alive and those that have, passed on in making sure the Nigerian state is safe, either the water, on the water, in the air, on the ground, and everybody that has had one thing or the other. Either they died in active duty or they died after, leaving service. We have with us one of those persons that has, served at the highest level, talking about the Nigerian military, especially defense information in Nigeria. Former Director of Defense Information, General Chris Olukolade, retired. He joins us virtually. Good morning, General.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very well, thank you for joining us, and happy Armed Forces Remembrance Day.
Thank you.
Very well, and how significant, because everybody knows the date, I know it, you know it, other persons know it as well, but you have been on the field as a young officer, you have grown, you retired, in one of the highest offices in the land as far as military is concerned, and some might not be lucky enough to tell their story by themselves, and that's why we have you here this morning. How important is it for us to celebrate this day every year?
Well, thank you for that question. And ordinarily, every military person serving or retired who is alive should be delighted to see that the nation appreciates the essence of military service. And this is not peculiar to Nigeria. We see it in other nations, and it's not even new either. Because right from when we were under the colonial system and were associated with the Commonwealth arrangement for celebrating such a day, which was used to be called the 11/11, it was a day set aside to celebrate people who died and heroes of military service. That the nation has sustained that to date is very encouraging, at least to the families of the ones who have paid the supreme sacrifice, and all of us, their colleagues who are fortunate to still be alive, and then those who are still in service. Seeing this celebration brings some comfort and encouragement that the nation appreciates our service, and it means so much. It's actually an opportunity for the nation to express its own understanding of what the military has contributed in both security and development of the nation. So to that extent, on my own personal note, I want to say thank you to Nigerians for giving us the chance to feel celebrated.
All right, General, I'll ask you this. Can a nation truly celebrate its heroes without first, confronting what led to their deaths? I mean, several of these soldiers did not just die because, holistically, let's put it that way. They died because of bandit attacks. Some died unnecessarily. But so I ask you this morning, can a nation truly celebrate its heroes without first confronting, or at least to the barest minimum curbing, the circumstance that led to their deaths?
the circumstances that led to the death of any military person is already anticipated in joining the service. One of our commitments is whether we live or die, we devote our service and our life to service of the nation. If you are fortunate to go and return, fine. Otherwise, it's expected. The idea of confronting the reason for the death is I don't see how necessary that will be now, except for the fact that in war, we know that somebody is either you kill or you are killed, and something must happen to take a life. Even people who didn't go to war also die either by accident or by other means of losing their life. So making that an issue might not be what we'll devote this time to, but rather we just feel that to acknowledge that people passed through that experience in the course of which they lost their life, in the course of which some lost their limbs. They are still alive, but they lost their limbs. They lost parts of their body. Some are blind. Some are deaf, although they are moving around. So there's no hazard. Every profession has its hazards. And the hazards in this case could include death, and most often it happens that way. So looking for who to blame for that might not be the issue. It's anticipated even as we want to join the service.
Fantastic. All right, and I'm sure my colleague Tope was, more like, because we have seen really now, just like you said, everybody knows this is anticipated. It's quite possibly the highest, the job with the highest risk, so to speak, because it has to do with your life. And you said it.
Yes.
It's either you kill or be killed in any capacity. But then some would say maybe there are some situations really that could have been prevented. Actually, it's a good feeling that you go to a war, you return, you tell your stories by yourself. But then if you are not lucky enough, fair enough, it's part of the job. But some will talk about maybe welfare, and that's what I want to take up right now. For those that didn't even die at the front line, but possibly we've seen situations where veterans had to protest. There was a situation like that last year, severally, they might not really be saying they are looter, we no go gree. But when you see them come out, gather in a particular place, carrying placards, talking about their plight, and then you see ministry saying, oh, it's not from us, it's the finance, oh, it's the CBN, oh, it's this one, and the welfare is not taking. You look at it, even some of us that are civilians, you said this is now to treat veterans. And some of them, when people go elderly, and I'm sure you know, that it comes with some challenges, with some health conditions, and now much more people that have been in, warfares and all of those things, and you don't have them have the welfare that they should have, and all of those things, in which can be killing, actually. Shouldn't we be looking more into that? Because 15th of January will always come every day, but there are challenges that should be fixed. How do you think the Nigerian state really cares about those out of service and those that are dead? Let's take it from there.
Well, ideally, there are systems in place to care for what you have pointed out. For instance, the Ministry of Defense was created purposely to take care of the welfare of the armed forces and to prepare them to do their duty. And this not just those in service, including the veterans, those who have retired. So that's a duty that the system, the nation assigned to the Defense Ministry. Now, in the course of that, over the years, either for one reason or the other, things have not been ideal. And I think it is the situation that is not ideal that you are pointing at. and it became an embarrassment to not just the concerned veterans, but to the nation. By virtue of their background, they were not trained to want to embarrass the nation by protests. And so it's often a very painful sight to see people protesting for being ignored in terms of the payment of their gratuities and pensions, or the allowances to their deceased relations and so on. Those were a very bad situation, and it grew over the years. But I think somehow, by way of response and management, that have been curtailed to a very large extent. The issue is about bureaucracy most of the time, and that efforts are made to solve it indicates that the nation knows what is proper to give these people their entitlement. I was in a forum yesterday, and this same issue came up. And the observation is that the situation has generally improved. You see less of those sites these days, possibly because efforts have been made to solve it substantially. And that's why you see less of such protests or agitations on the part of veterans. It is not to say that everything is okay, but there's very good efforts to solve it, and it seems to be making the required impact, in the sense that largely pensions, yes, it could still be better, but what is available has been paid, it's been paid, unlike previous, when people were owed their government a lot to people who have to survive somehow after service. So yes, it could be better, and I think they are working towards making it better.
Right.
This kind of concerns should be directed to government, and let's see how they will sustain these efforts to improve on that situation.
Right. When situations happen, it sounds good actually to feel that the situation are getting better. We hope we won't have any of those sides, because personally, General, I don't have a parents that are in military. None of my family members that I know are there. But when you hear, especially with what we have been suffering in Nigeria for the past 10 years, or even more than that, that nobody either in service or have retired or have passed on, living families should bother. You don't have to be on the field and you are worried, and money should be your problem. It doesn't sound good to me. It doesn't sound well. Some of us are here, of course, God is the one who protects, but because some persons are taking the pains. When you look through the pages of social media and you see maybe some defense colleagues of ours that are into defense, and you see some of the shots they bring, you see the conditions in which some of these people serve in extreme interior parts of the country, and the least they should worry about should be money and welfare. And you said the defense ministry was created for that purpose. So when these issues happen, because generally it's good that we identify what issues are so that we can provide solutions. Is it a failure or personnel or the system? I just want us to call it what it is, because you have spoken for the defense ministry at some point before. You manage defense information. Who drops the ball here?
I think I pointed it out. The issue has been some negligence along the line of bureaucracy. And this bureaucracy cuts across the entire governmental structure. For instance, where you take on the Ministry of Defense, the tendency is to say, yes, we have appropriated, we have calculated and provided what is required, but the Ministry of Finance is yet to give cash backing and all those kind of language. So all of these are bureaucratic issues that tend to affect what is the ideal way of taking care of veterans and even people in service. As government change, government go and come, the seriousness of attending to those bureaucratic bottlenecks. Let's hope they will keep improving.
All right.
But that's the real issue. It's mainly about bureaucracy.
All right, General, as a retired general in the military yourself, with the media, what we do is to amplify your voices. So that's why we'll ask this morning, in light of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day this year, well, on Daily Trust, there have been some reports right here. Some of the veterans who spoke to Daily Trust in separate interviews said they appealed to the government not to abandon them after years of service, stressing that they dedicated their youthful years to defending the country. A particular retired master warrant officer, Emmanuel Waniko, described government policy on post-retirement housing for military personnel as non-existent. So I'd like to ask you, and honestly speaking, beyond ceremonial wreath-laying, beyond all of that, how effectively does Nigeria institutionalize the memory of fallen heroes, the service members, in national policy, in education, and all of those? How do they institutionalize, the memory?
I think celebrations like this is related to the memory of those who served, if it is memory we're talking about. But I think also possibly inferring on the welfare of their dependents, like the children, the families that they left behind.
Yes.
Maybe that's what you mean to say. And all of this is related to what is in place. For instance, the system makes provision for insurance. The system makes provision for death gratuity. The system makes provision for severance of diverse types. The issue is to now drive what is on ground. Let's even exhaust that. I believe that if what is on ground is taken care of at the moment, yes, maybe there will be need for improvement, but there will be less of the pain on those who feel denied. It's more of an issue of feeling denied than saying that there is no provision. The provision is actually there, but it may not be enough, but let's even execute that first. And I will take that back again to the, bottlenecks along the line, most of the time outside of the service, not within the services.
Right.
Now, if we are done with that, now about their memory, I think it will depend on how we treat the veterans as well as the dependents of the lost ones. The veterans, for instance, I've had the privilege to be in other countries. I see, for instance, how veterans are treated in America. It's not necessarily about government. It's just a culture and an orientation of people who want you to feel appreciated. For instance, when you are boarding your flight in the airport, there are some concessions to you because you're a service person or a retired person. And those concessions are meant to make a statement to you, to tell you that the nation appreciates your service. And this necessarily, it's not a thing that is just about government. Individuals who as well do that. I think we can go to that. That's a matter of repetition.
Well, you're right about the culture, but that would stem from how well even we are all citizens and we watch what our leaders do. I mean, when these veterans, when you veterans, wives, the widows that these veterans still, the heroes have left behind, when they are not well taken care of by government, I think people just take their cue from government. And that's what we are saying now, because the memory, honoring the memory of, and the service, the years of service that these fallen heroes have put into, their duties and all of this in Nigeria, it's honoring those memory comes from different parts. You honor them by taking care of their wives, their children, and all of those, and their partners, their colleagues, or husbands as well. Yes, their spouses. And so honoring the memory is a lot, and it's beyond just the day. That's why we're saying that how well can, you know, the government, can Nigerians institutionalize all of this, you know, the memory beyond the day for laying of wreaths, beyond that day that has been earmarked? How do we do that? What's the culture that we should drop? What are those things that should be improved upon? What are those things that the conversations, expansion of the conversation beyond that particular ceremonial, the ceremonial activities that the day portrays?
Well, thank you very much. It's like emphasizing what I said earlier. I think it will be more about a national orientation thing that makes an average Nigerian to see that military service is an honorable service, is a service that is a hallmark of patriotism, and every opportunity should be made to make a statement to veterans. By the way, you see, the trauma of the veteran is to have seen your colleague that you trained with, that you grew with. Some die almost virtually in your presence. That memory itself haunts you for life. Just like the children and the wives too. So if such a person is told, thank you for your service. You know, we have an orientation in Nigeria, which I think we are getting over it, and I hope we do quickly, to always equate military service to being military government, and then to see them as mainly the problem of the nation, than to see them in terms of what they were paid to do by virtue of service and protecting the rest of us. Now, if there is an orientation that accords that some sense of dignity. I've just told you, for instance, how it happens in the airports, not in Nigeria. In Nigeria, even if you are giving that concession, others will be complaining. What is special about them? Is it because they are soldiers? Is it because they served in the army? You see that there's an orientation of resistance, or I don't want to say envy or whatever. And so you just quietly, follow the queue. But I'm telling you now, for instance, in America, if there's going to be boarding of an airline, of an aircraft, as a deliberate policy, there'll be an announcement to say veterans and the service personnel should have a means of boarding that means some privilege. And if somebody meets you on the road and he gets to know that you are a veteran, one of the most likely greetings he will tell you is, thank you for your sacrifice for our country. It's a matter of orientation. And that one is what every citizen can do. And I think that it should be by orientation. Somebody greeted me that way in Lagos recently, and I knew this fellow must be very civilized.
Yeah.
This guy must have traveled around the world. He just called, oh, you are general, so thank you for your service for our country. And it meant a lot of meaning to me.
Yeah, General,
like when,
if I may butt in here, sorry, sir. I think we have, I think the last time we had you here, we hinted on something like this, especially respecting the veterans. In fact, those that are still in service as well, especially when you know that, there is an officer of the Nigerian state, but there seems to be this disconnect, actually, between the men in uniform, actually, and the rest of us. Because of many perceived cases of high-handedness, because of the people in uniform. Many persons have been molested, harassed, and some of the times unduly so, just because they know that, especially when they're in uniform, and even things that maybe someone has done it, and you know that it came from a place of ignorance, the person in uniform want to exert and want to let you know he can mess you up right there. And, this, I'm sure this, we always create that disconnect, that instead of people, civilians, to respect, the point is to respect people in uniform, either those in service or not, they dread them. And so it makes them not to like them. Seeing cases of because somebody is wearing a camo, in fact, I will ask you that question shortly. Can you please educate that person? Can you let the person know, especially if the person is civil or not, to appear like he does, because some don't know. I've seen cases, you mentioned abroad, in which people wear camo, they go to soldiers to take pictures with them, telling them, we appreciate you, I want to be like you someday and to defend this country. But here in Nigeria, if you dare do that, you will be so badly messed up. You see, people don't want to follow the queue. And Nigerians will say, you are not the one that will tell me that you take it by force. All of us are queuing at the ATM point. You don't want to wait. I should be the one to say, oh, these guys are military guys, please allow them. There's mutual respect. But when you come from a place of brute force, meaning the rest of us don't care, just because you are in uniform, it seems there is no way that the people will respect. They will only dread. General, if a bunch of soldiers come into a community, either they are just walking or just strolling, the moment people see them, parents will begin to call their children, please come in, because you don't know what you say. In fact, I've seen videos that some persons complimented soldiers and they felt, who are you to do that to a Nigerian officer? So these are some of the cases that gets people, you know, averse, and instead of respect, they only dread them. How do we bridge this connect? You know, I think I've shared on this program before. I was at a program in Ekiti State or so, and it was, you know, put together by, I think, the Public Relations Department of the Nigerian Army, spreading the message of the fact that we are not just about guns. We do interventions as well, that they fix roads. In fact, that was new to me at the time, that they go on medical intervention. And many persons were wondering, how come the army doesn't, not just the army, the military doesn't put out this civil part of them? And what we see is always that brute force. How do we connect this? Looking at those examples I've given.
Well, thank you for those examples. I want to assure you that they are isolated and they are not the ideal. They are definitely not the ideal. It's I won't even put myself forward as but I will hardly do that in public. I'd rather be on the queue and somebody singles me out and say, please, can you just go ahead? That's me. And I'm telling you that there are more of this type of behavior than those isolated cases of, I'll call it irresponsible behavior, like you said. Generally, the soldiers are not trained to behave that way. You see, those ones who do that are quite often, maybe they are new ones, or they are yet to imbibe what the system inculcates. And I can assure you that that tendency is reducing very, very fast. Just like you said, you attended a seminar.
Yeah.
And you got to know of civil military relations gestures of the military. It's everywhere. Is everywhere, and the deliberate intention to cultivate the civilian population, to influence them. And the system is paying so much to achieve that. But there are still isolated cases that they are not overwhelming enough to determine the color or the culture of the military itself. In the sense that if you see some resentment, I agree with you, some resentment rather than admiration.
Yeah.
Comes from
the right way. Yeah.
Some of these bad experience. And some of the experience, I can also say, are hearsay. So that there's some hostility, even when you have not been treated that you believe this guy is about to misbehave to me because it's a uniform. Do you know that, for instance, I've found when you try to mildly correct someone, the next question you're likely to hear is it because you are uniform? What do you think you are? You know, so all those tendencies sometimes is mutual and is unfortunate.
It's on both sides.
But the system consciously has tried to inculcate civil behavior. When I say civil, I mean responsible relationship. I'm aware that there were times we designed a lot of PR attitude that soldiers should have in relating with civilians. And that is often different from what happens when you are in an operation. When you're in an operation and you are dealing with criminals who you cannot even isolate with, so attitude to that environment should differ from when you are interacting in normal settings in the society. But I dare say, that those cases are more isolated than popular. The cases of brute force, brutality, harassment, molestation of civilians, I believe it has reduced significantly. Some of it happened after the Civil War, and people are still relating it today, not conscious that a lot of development is ongoing. I wish you are convinced at this, but I can assure you that those tendencies are not the norm. They are deviations. They are deviations, and the system frowns very seriously at it.
All right. Experience, they say, can never be bought, actually. So, in what place do the veterans, do they still have a part to play in this war against insecurity? Because they might have been out of the front line, but still there are issues, there are challenges in Nigeria. We are hearing, in fact, yesterday on this program, General, we had the discussion, about, a policy in Katsina State where communities are now negotiating with terrorists on their own because, of course, from the place of helplessness. It's like you reaching out to your abuser to say, please have mercy on me. I want to be alive. What do you want? It's as terrible as that. And now, another angle to that is that the state government, Katsina State, said they have a part to play in all of that, in which they told the court that are some, suspect, terrorism-related people that have been apprehended in the past, that they should be released as a part of a swap deal. Meaning, they said the bandits, the insurgents released like 1,000 to the Katsina State government through various local governments. And so the Katsina State as well said, okay, like 77 of them be released back. It's as terrible as that. And we are talking about celebrating. Now, in fact, I want to ask this question. How does that make veterans feel? That these people who killed their colleagues, who maimed some of them without limbs, that are in very critical condition today, are now being released back into the same society. And sometimes, how does that make you feel as a veteran? In fact, let's start from there.
First of all, I think you need to know that that's a political decision. It's not a military decision. And the military works for the nation. I also know that you will have heard the statement repeatedly made by the defense minister.
Right.
That both the terrorists and a sympathizer are assumed to be in the same offense and to be crushed together. Let me tell you, it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant for the military person to see the fellow who was engaging him in armed combat in the field now going free. For an average military person, it is not pleasant. So I don't even want to see that as a military decision that should be attributed to the military. It's more of a political decision. But that does not make it, a thing that should be put on the military or on government. That's the much I want to say on this, but I also want to say that maybe you mean to say that it is related to the effectiveness of the operations to achieve total security. Well, everything is being, from what we see, from what we hear, you said our position as veterans, as much as possible, we are still in contact. We're still in contact with the system to discuss with our colleagues we left behind where our experience is required. Most of this we communicate in training sessions, and quite often I can assure you that we participate in a lot of their training, and opinions are taken seriously. That is as far as it concerns the profession of the military, not the political dimension. The political dimension, maybe we should advise politicians. Quite often politicians will hardly listen to it. There are those who even disdain any opinion you give them about their security, or would feel it as if it's a kind of intrusion that is not welcome. But for the military, we definitely relate to them, where we can chip in one advice or the other.
All right, General, looking at the state of Nigeria security at this moment, just last year we saw international forces, or let me say the United States president, wading into the security situation of the country. I'd like to ask you, as a veteran, who has been in this, in practical terms, what would a safer Nigeria be, or what does it look like in 2026, and how far are we from that reality?
Well, I want to assume you are talking about the relationship with the Americans coming to the aid of our security system.
I just talked about the point we have reached in this insecurity or this insurgency battle. But now I'm asking you, in 2026, what would you say, in practical terms, what should a safer Nigeria look like? And then how far are we from that particular reality?
Great. The what we would desire as a 2026 will be a safe society where the farmers can go to their farm and return without the fear of being either attacked or kidnapped, where people can sleep in their homes and not be afraid that they will be abducted by gun-toting criminals. The one that people can move freely along the road and the various routes of movement with no fear. The one that the forest will become safe, such that people can go there either for hunting or for farming. I think that's the ideal that we always desire. And I think efforts are directed at that, including securing assistance from wherever it matters. Because the major threat to our security at the moment is terrorism. And terrorism is not a local, yes, all security problems are local, but terrorism in itself is a global crime. There's a network that is global in nature. And so if you get global assistance to curtail them, there's nothing wrong in that. So if we even have to get any input that can curtail the excesses of the so-called bandits and terrorists that are marauding all over the place, I think we will achieve this desire. And that's where we should concentrate efforts in complementing the efforts of our military and security agencies.
Thank you so much, former Director of Information, Defense Headquarters, General Chris Olukolade retired. Again, happy Armed Forces Remembrance Day, and to everyone, and of course, please relay our messages to anyone that you can find that we are rooting for the Nigerian military here.
Thank you so very much.
Right. And yes, we'll take a break right now. When we return, we'll speak about Ocean's Day. What that will be next. Stay with us.